Can you even imagine the weight in that room? Just picture it for a second. You're standing in the middle of the Forrester mansion. The air is thick. It's that heavy, suffocating kind of silence you only get when a titan is about to fall. Eric Forrester is lying there. And he's not just a man anymore. He's the foundation of everything these people know. But as his voice starts to fade into a whisper, he isn't giving a standard goodbye. He's not just saying he loves them. No, he's dropping an absolute nuclear bomb on the family legacy. Was this really his way of being honest at the very end? Or was it one last giant move to control the story before he couldn't speak anymore? Honestly, it makes you wonder if we ever really knew the real Eric Forrester at all. Well, think about it. For months now, we've watched Eric struggle with this health crisis that he's tried so hard to hide. He polished it up, didn't he? He treated his own mortality like a scuff on a high-end runway shoe. He threw himself into that final fashion challenge against Ridge, but why? It wasn't because he needed another trophy. He's got plenty of those. He did it because he needed to prove that the master still had it. But the funny thing is, by choosing that vanity win, he pushed his body right over the edge. He literally chose his pride over his life. Don't you think that's a bit much? I mean, was a fashion show really worth his final breaths? The sources tell us that Eric's health isn't just a physical failure. It's a symptom of a man who just refuses to believe the clock ever stops. He kept the severity of his condition a secret until he literally collapsed. Why would he do that? In the Forrester world, if you aren't the one at the drafting table, you're basically a ghost. He was terrified of being replaced. So he used his silence as a shield. But it didn't just protect him. It robbed his family. It took away their chance to say a real goodbye because they were all living a lie he created. Do you think that's fair? To let your children believe everything is fine while you're dying right in front of them? I see this as a total Shakespearean tragedy. Eric is like King Lear, trying to divide his kingdom while pretending he still has all the power. He's not just fighting a heart condition. He's fighting time itself. And honestly, I think his secrecy was actually pretty manipulative. The show tries to frame it as him protecting his family, but come on. He forced Ridge into a corner. Ridge had to lie to his own father about who won that fashion challenge just to keep him happy. That is such a heavy burden to put on a son. It's classic Eric Forrester, though. He always prioritizes the image of the family over the actual truth. And then we have this new layer. John McCook, the legend himself, is saying this isn't just a repeat of what we saw in 2023. He says the stress this time is coming from Katie's debut collection for her new line, Logan. Eric is supposed to be retired, right? But he's newly retired and already clutching his chest. It's like he can't breathe if he isn't the center of attention at Forrester Creations. He's racing against a deadline, pushing himself to the brink for a runway show. Does he really think the company will fall apart without him? Or is his ego just that big? Let's talk about that devastating family truth he finally let slip. As he lay there, the room felt like it was shrinking. He didn't just talk about being sick. He started unraveling a story that goes back 40 years. A story that says the whole foundation of the Forrester family might be a total lie. He realized that secrets don't stay buried. They grow roots. And those roots have been rotting under the family for decades. He finally spoke because the truth was getting heavier than his own life. Can you imagine finding out your whole identity, your name, and your family tree were built on a choice someone made out of fear 40 years ago? The emotional fallout here is just staggering. For Ridge and the others, this isn't just about losing a father. It's about realizing they don't actually know who they are. Every memory they have is now tainted by this new information. I interpret this as the ultimate rebranding. Eric spent his life making the Forresters look perfect, but his last act was to admit the brand was a fake. He stripped away the polish and left them with the raw, ugly truth. But why wait until the very last second? To me, that feels like a hit-and-run confession. He gets the relief of telling the truth, and they get left with the wreckage. Do you think he was being brave, or was he just being cowardly? Psychologically, this is a perfect example of generational trauma. Eric's choice to keep a secret 40 years ago has influenced every single relationship in that family. They've all been reacting to a ghost they didn't even know was there. He tried to break the cycle by speaking up, but doing it on his deathbed might have just started a whole new cycle of pain. The sources say this truth involves a child, a concealed bond. Think about the implications of that. If there's a hidden child, it changes everything. The inheritance, the legal standing of the company, the history of the family. It all gets rewritten. And while all this heavy stuff is going down with the patriarch, the younger generation is busy tearing itself apart. We've got Will Spencer and Electra Forrester caught in a web of lies that is just wild. Ivy Forrester. Man, she really took things to a dark place. She intercepted a letter that Electra wrote to Will. A letter where Electra poured her heart out. And what did Ivy do? She replaced it with a broken titanium choker. Now think about that. Titanium is supposed to be one of the strongest things on Earth. It's meant to be unbreakable. By leaving a snapped one behind, she was telling Will that his relationship was permanently broken. Why did she do it? She claims she was guarding Electra. She thinks Spencer men are nothing but trouble. But who gave her the right to play God with someone else's heart? She manipulated the situation so perfectly that Will ended up pacing the beach in Malibu, feeling completely ripped apart. He saw Electra kissing RJ, but he didn't know the whole story. He didn't know that Electra only turned to RJ because she thought Will had ignored her most vulnerable moment. It's a tragedy built on a total void where the truth should have been. The funny thing is, the sources say Daphne could literally smell the love between Will and Electra. She said they smelled like vanilla and oranges. I love that detail. It makes the betrayal feel so much more visceral. When Daphne realized what Ivy had done, she didn't hold back. She found the proof, the log that showed Ivy wasn't where she said she was. And when Ivy's mask finally cracked, she didn't even seem sorry at first. She insisted she did it out of love. But we all know that's not love. That's possession. It's almost like Ivy is a younger version of Eric. She believes she knows what's best for everyone else. She's willing to lie and manipulate to keep people in the boxes she's built for them. She used RJ as a pawn and Dylan as a distraction. She created a storm of chaos just so she could be the hero who saves the day. It's honestly a bit disgusting, don't you think? To claim you're protecting someone while you're actively destroying their happiness? Bill Spencer even called her out on it. He said she was bold for trying to outplay a Spencer. And he's right. That's a dangerous game to play. But back to Eric. The sources say that after his confession, the house settled into this suspended stillness. No one knew how to move. No one knew what to say. The man they thought they knew was gone, and in his place was this stranger who had been lying to them for 40 years. For some, the initial shock turned into sharp anger. They felt like their agency had been stolen. They made life decisions based on a reality that wasn't even true. That kind of betrayal doesn't just go away with an apology. How do you even begin to forgive someone for that? I think Ridge's reaction is going to be the most interesting to watch. He built his entire life trying to be the perfect son for the king. Now that he knows the king was a fraud, what does that make Ridge? He might spiral. He might try to rewrite the Forrester brand in his own image, which will probably blow up in his face. And what about Donna? She was the one holding the truth bomb for so long. She had to watch Eric push himself to the brink while she kept his secrets from her own sisters. That is a lonely place to be. The sources also mention a face from the past, arriving in town and shaking things up. Could this be the hidden child Eric mentioned? Or someone related to that hidden bond? If a new person shows up to claim their piece of the Forrester empire, we are looking at a total civil war. This person won't just want money. They'll want the name. They'll want the legacy that Eric denied them. It's going to be a corporate and legal nightmare that will make the Sheila Carter drama look like a walk in the park. And then there's the question of whether Eric is actually gone. The sources say he closed his eyes and slipped away. But in the world of soaps, is anyone ever really gone? There's a lot of talk about whether this is just another medical fake-out. John McCook says he has no plans to leave the show. He even joked that they'll have to call his wife and tell her he's dead on set before he ever retires. So does that mean Eric survives? Or does he stick around as a ghost? Or maybe a series of flashbacks that reveal even more secrets? What's really deep is how the truth changed the scent of the family. The sources say that treason leaves a scent that never truly fades. In this case, it smells like remorse. That's such a powerful way to put it. You can fix a mistake, but you can't always wash away the feeling of being betrayed. Will and Electra might be back together with their new titanium bond, but can they ever really trust the people around them again? They were victims of a precisely constructed lie. That's going to leave a mark on their souls. I honestly find it hard to see the nobility in Eric's choice. He waited until he was beyond the reach of any questions before he dropped the truth. That's not honesty. It's a way to have the final word without having to deal with the consequences. He gets the relief of confessing, and his family gets the burden of cleaning up the mess. Feels incredibly selfish to me. Do you agree? Or do you think he was just a man who ran out of time and did the best he could? The psychological layer here is just fascinating. We're seeing identity foreclosure in real time. These people built their whole lives on being Forresters, and now the very definition of what it means to be a Forrester has changed. The disorientation must be absolute. It's not just about the future being different. It's about the past being rewritten. Every argument, every celebration, every moment of closeness. It all looks different now through the lens of this secret. And let's not forget the corporate side of things. If the lineage isn't what it seemed, who actually owns Forrester Creations? If there's another heir out there, the legal battles could last for years. Ridge and Steffi have been fighting for control, but they might find out they don't even have a seat at the table anymore. It's a total reconfiguration of their reality, and honestly, they probably deserve it for being so arrogant all these years. What about you? What do you think the real secret is? The sources tease a child and a hidden bond. Who could it be? Is it someone we've met before? Or is a brand new character about to walk through those doors and turn Los Angeles upside down? I want to know your theories. Do you think Eric was right to keep the secret for so long to protect the peace? Or was he just protecting his own ego? And what about Will and Electra? Can they really make it? Ivy might have packed her bags to leave, but she's a Forrester. She'll be back the second there's a power vacuum. And with Eric gone, or at least out of the picture, that vacuum is huge. I suspect she's going to find a way to use this family truth to her own advantage. She's already proven she's a master manipulator. Why would she stop now? The thing that gets me is the scent of vanilla and oranges. It's such a small human detail in the middle of all this corporate and family drama. It reminds us that at the end of the day, these are just people trying to find love in a world that's built on lies. But can love survive when the very ground you're standing on is shifting? Will says he never stopped loving Electra, and she says the same. But love doesn't magically fix the damage. Rebuilding takes time, transparency, and a lot of work. Are they ready for that? Or are they just clinging to each other because everything else is falling apart? And Ridge? Oh, Ridge. He's going to have a hard time with this. He's always been the one trying to live up to Eric's legacy. If that legacy is built on a lie, what does Ridge have left? He might find himself more like Bill Spencer than he'd ever want to admit. Bill is at least honest about who he is. He's a what you see is what you get kind of guy. Eric and Ridge, on the other hand, are all about the image. Maybe this is the moment the Forresters finally have to face the truth and stop pretending they're better than everyone else. It's really a reckoning for the whole family. A challenge to see who they can become when the illusions are gone. Eric's final words didn't just end a life. They started a whole new story. A story that can never be told the same way again. The secret he carried for 40 years is out in the open, and it has cracked open the past and the future alike. So before we wrap this up, I've got to ask you a couple of big questions. First, was Eric Forrester right to keep this family truth hidden for decades just to keep the peace? Or was it a totally selfish move that destroyed the family's trust in the end? I mean, think about the damage it caused. Was peace really worth all that lying? Let's get a debate going in the comments. I want to see where you all stand on this. And second, do you really think Will and Electra have a shot? Can their relationship survive Ivy's meddling? Or has the scent of treason ruined their future for good? It's one thing to get back together, but it's another thing to actually move past that kind of manipulation. What do you think? Are they the next big power couple, or are they just doomed? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the darkest corners of the Forrester legacy, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps me keep bringing you these updates. And if you don't want to miss a single second of the fallout from Eric's confession, you have to be subscribed with notifications turned on. We are following every spoiler and every truth bomb as they drop, and trust me, things are only going to get crazier from here. What do you think the real secret is? Drop a comment below and let's talk about it. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you in the next one where we see if the Forresters can actually survive the truth. Can you even imagine the weight in that room? Just picture it for a second. You're standing in the middle of the Forrester mansion, and the air is thick. It's that heavy, suffocating kind of silence you only get when a titan is about to fall. Eric Forrester is lying there, and he's not just a man anymore. He's the foundation of everything these people know. But as his voice starts to fade into a whisper, he isn't giving a standard goodbye. He's not just saying he loves them. No, he's dropping an absolute nuclear bomb on the family legacy. Was this really his way of being honest at the very end? Or was it one last giant move to control the story before he couldn't speak anymore? Honestly, it makes you wonder if we ever really knew the real Eric Forrester at all. Does it feel right to you that a patriarch would wait until his literal last breath to tell the truth? Feels more like a final power play than a moment of peace. Well, think about it. For months now, we've watched Eric struggle with this health crisis that he's tried so hard to hide. He polished it up, didn't he? He treated his own mortality like a scuff on a high-end runway shoe. The sources tell us he recently clutched his chest while talking to Donna about stepping down as the lead designer for the Logan line. He refused to stop, even though his body was clearly screaming for him to rest. Why would a man who has already won everything push himself this hard? It's not about the clothes. It's about the identity. If he isn't the master at the drafting table, who is he? He's terrified of being irrelevant. And that psychological fear is driving him straight into the grave. It's honestly a bit tragic that his self-worth is so tied to a sketchbook that he'd risk his life for one more debut. The funny thing is, Eric's health isn't just a physical failure. It's a symptom of a man who just refuses to believe the clock ever stops. He kept the severity of his condition a secret until he literally collapsed after his goodbye party. In the Forrester world, if you aren't the one at the drafting table, you're basically a ghost. He was terrified of being replaced, so he used his silence as a shield. But it didn't just protect him. It robbed his family. It took away their chance to say a real goodbye because they were all living a lie he created. Do you think that's fair? To let your children believe everything is fine while you're dying right in front of them? It feels incredibly selfish to prioritize your own pride over their emotional preparation. I see this as a total Shakespearean tragedy. One fan even pointed out that Eric is like a king beset on all sides. He's like King Lear, trying to divide his kingdom while pretending he still has all the power. He's not just fighting a heart condition. He's fighting time itself. And honestly, I think his secrecy was actually pretty manipulative. The show tries to frame it as him protecting his family, but come on. He forced Ridge into a corner. Ridge had to lie to his own father about who won that fashion challenge just to keep him happy. That is such a heavy burden to put on a son. It's classic Eric Forrester, though. He always prioritizes the image of the family over the actual truth. Is a legacy built on a lie even worth having? And then we have this new layer. John McCook, the legend himself, is saying this isn't just a repeat of what we saw in 2023. He says the stress this time is coming from Katie's debut collection for her new line, Logan. Eric is supposed to be retired, right? But he's newly retired, and already clutching his chest because the deadline was moved up. It's like he can't breathe if he isn't the center of attention at Forrester Creations. He's racing against a deadline, pushing himself to the brink for a runway show. Does he really think the company will fall apart without him? Or is his ego just that big? Psychologically, he's addicted to the adrenaline of the industry, and it's killing him.